Panharmonicon presents a podcast.
Welcome back to another episode of Panharmonicon Studios presents a podcast. I'm Farron Willis,
I'm Damon Chancellor.
and we're your movie guys. I'm assuming that if you're here, you like movies as much as we do, which is great. And if you listen to the past few episodes, we kind of been on a Batman kick. So we, over the past three, have done the Christopher Nolan trilogy, and we were talking about how often we reference the Batman, 2022's The Batman, and figured it was high time to dance in that arena.
So we're eventually doing exactly what made the most sense. We're going to be doing the Batman this episode. But before we get to the Batman, I actually have a segment I want to add to this.
Oh.
And I didn't want to say it ahead of time because I wanted you to think on the spot. Because I'm also going to be thinking on the spot. And that is, Farron, what are 3 movies that you think should either be rebooted or continued?
Oof. This is about to be an hour and a half of the podcast right here, dude. Just like me trying to figure out what those 3 movies are. I guess how granular can we get here? Cause like, can we talk about iterations or versions of a character that were discontinued?
Yeah, just
And-
whatever
and, like,
movie
things
that you think to yourself, man, I would like a different take at that movie / if it's a superhero movie, a character, or if you're like, man, I'd really like to see a sequel in the universe of this movie.
Okay, this is gonna sound like a weird one because they actually just had a movie come out a few years ago, The Matrix. I would like to see like a reboot of The Matrix, not a continuation of it. And I think anytime that I watch the first Matrix, especially, I'm like, this movie was so ahead of its time. Like, this movie is crazy. The special effects, the ideas, the creative minds that went behind it, and then, but it still stands up to me. I think, especially the first one in that trilogy. But now, us being 25 years in the future, the movie came out in 1999. It's like, I wonder what that would look like. I wonder what it would look like now. I wonder where they would take it. So that would be one. The reason why I asked about the whole, various iterations of characters is because I would like to see a continuation of Andrew Garfield's Amazing Spider-Man.
So Amazing Spider-Man 3.
Yeah, I would like to see that go on, because I think one of the things is Tobey Maguire will always be a GOAT for me. I think just because of how, I was 12 when that movie came out, or going on 13, I think, when that movie came out, and that, I don't think I've ever. Well, I mean, there've been other movies I've been hyped for, but the feelings that I had, it felt like, even in just watching the trailers and getting pumped for this movie, it felt like it was ushering in a new age of possibilities when it came to comic book storytelling. It was different because I think, like we talked about before, I think with Blade, it took me a while to register that it was even a Marvel movie, or a Marvel property. Spider-Man, who doesn't know? Well, I mean, there's people, right? But that, of course, I knew that's Marvel, and to see in the trailer how they were able to make it look like it. It kind of reminds me what I would imagine some people felt like when Richard Donner came out with the first Superman. And I think the tagline is you'll believe a man can fly. Mm-hmm. That's what Sam Raimi's Spider-Man did for me. It's you'll believe a man can be Spider-Man, and everything that happened. But Andrew Garfield, I think he's underrated as a Spider-Man. I think his Peter Parker is too cool, in my opinion. He's got too cool of an edge for what I kind of imagine Peter Parker being. But his Spider-Man is on point. His Spider-Man's on point.
Yeah.
The third one, that's this may sound like a weird one. Reboot Silent Hill and do it at A24. Like A24, like so the minds behind like Hereditary, Midsommar. Let them do Silent Hill. I would be so interested in seeing, because I think the original one that came out back, I think it was like 2006. I don't think it was terrible. I think it started off pretty strong, but like as the movie went on, you're like, okay, this is, and there were certain things I didn't think about in retrospect. I'm like, the whole Pyramid Head had become such a huge entity, like so recognizable in the Silent Hill culture, that they just kind of shoehorn him in when he's not even related to the characters that are, you know what I'm saying? Because
I'm going to be frank.
Yeah.
When we went to see that, I fell asleep at the movie theater.
I didn't remember you.
And I think I woke up around the time where Pyramid Head ripped the skin off of that.
Oh,
that
yeah.
against the wall. And I was like, oh, whoa. And he was in this movie. And then I think I fell back asleep. So
you saw what you needed to see.
Yeah. But no, I would love like Silent Hill and Resident Evil. I think are two movies that 100% need to have an actual horror director direct them instead of like trying to shoehorn you in either like an action person or a what's his name, W.S. Anderson.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, Lord Jesus.
And I think if you like it doesn't have to be like a Guillermo del Toro, but like just an actual like someone who does horror movies and have them just put their own spin on it. No one's asking for like a beat for beat recreation of like the video game because it's a video game. There's a bunch of actions that you can take that you wouldn't see in a movie, but like, yeah, just give it this crazy psychological horror spin and just be like, here you go.
Yeah.
Fucked you up for today.
Oh, absolutely. Because, I mean, that's the thing, and that's one of the reasons I think why, like, I will always love, I think, both franchises, Resident Evil and Silent Hill, but definitely when it comes to, like, I recognize that Silent Hill is a much better horror experience because of, like, the psychological terror that it puts you through. Whereas Resident Evil more or less relies on, like, body horror and jump scares, which has its place, don't get me wrong, but you always kind of like tense yourself to it. And Silent Hill kind of does the same way. I kind of realized as I was playing it, especially with the headphones that I have, like you being able to have 3D sound, you just hear all of these details. And oftentimes it's building that tension by just like eliciting this sound or like creating this sound that you think is going to lead to something, but then there's nothing on the other side of it. But it makes your imagination run wild. And I think the story itself is great. But yeah, that's what I would go with. What about you?
So like I said, I was going to come off the cuff on this one. I haven't pre-thought it.
Okay.
And I think they've even kind of changed since we started this. My number one is Mortal Kombat. I know we just had that, but I don't like that. So I would like an actual reboot of that franchise, of that story. And I would even say just take Mortal Kombat 9's story and just put real people to it.
Yeah.
Like there's no like just make Mortal Kombat. And it's not it itself almost feel like it was made to be a movie back in 1992. And it's crazy that someone looked at that and said, "No, I got to movify this." And yeah, we got that first one. That first one worked. But then you got Annihilation, and it was like everyone who made that first one just walked away. And then a whole bunch of third graders came in.
Yeah.
It was like,
yeah,
it's time to make a new movie, guys.
That's so accurate. That's like...
And then this past reboot was what is essentially wrong with a lot of modern day movies, where someone took some source material, thought they could do it better, but did it worse. And it's like, just take the source material. It's already there for you. Both, like, since Mortal Kombat 9, I probably since Mortal Kombat versus DC, like, they've essentially laid out a story that's supposed to play out like a movie, just a really long movie. So you just gotta truncate it. You don't have to add your own twist or add characters that don't exist in the universe that you just wanted to create for some reason because you wanted to self-insert or whatever. None of that has to happen. You just need to make the movie from the story that exists, and people will be like, "Yep, that's Mortal Kombat. That's people fighting. That's uppercuts taking out heads." Like,
dude, I'm sorry to I hate the fact that they made that movie center around some brand new character that never existed. I absolutely abhor that they would go that route, and then also include the character that should have been your main character.
It's literally Resident Evil again.
Oh yeah, dude,
like,
yeah.
Like, forget Jill Valentine
And Chris Redfield. Here's Leon Kennedy. Nah, he doesn't matter. Here's Alice.
Alice is my wife, and she's far better than any of these other characters.
Yeah.
Ugh. Anyway, number 2 for me is it's a weird thing because I don't know if I want to call it a reboot. I want a different Blade Trinity. I would rather get a third Blade that continued the story from 2, didn't have unnecessary characters in it, like Ryan Reynolds, and also had a director in a situation in which Wesley Snipes was not so upset that he just decided not to like work on the last half of the movie or whatever, and make an actual good third like movie in that trilogy for such a like what I would say is kind of like a important character for what would eventually help build enough interest in comic book movies to make like the Marvel Cinematic Universe happen. My third has nothing to do with either one of those. It's The Goonies. I don't think we need a reboot of The Goonies, but I would like a new, or even like a Goonies 2. I would just like a new Goonies. Like, I've said this before, not on here, but I've said before that the concept of just like the kids getting up to like no good adventures genre just disappeared after like 2000. There's no more Goonies or Sandlot or like any. It's just like that genre is just like poof, and it's either like Disney Channel exclusive type movies or stuff like Diary of a Wimpy Kid. And
dude, I was gonna say Diary of a Wimpy Kid is probably like maybe the closest.
Yeah. And it's just like, what happened to a movie where somehow like the parents just sort of they're around but just not around enough, and these kids just, like Stranger Things is probably the closest concept we've had to it, and it would be great to see that concept in a movie. Well, I mean, without the crazy horror elements, but just a good old grand adventure.
I wonder, with that thought, who was I feel like this is a conversation I was having with you, but I'm trying to remember the last time that we would have spoken in person or over the phone to be able to have this. So I'm like, who did I have this conversation with? Or maybe it was a video that I saw. But anyways, it was a conversation, maybe it was just a YouTube video about like sort of like the evolution of comic book backgrounds for characters. And how, and not even just like new characters as like the decades go on, and like we delve deeper into this like media form, but more of the characters that we are already all familiar with. Like for instance, oh dude, it was Travis. Okay, I was gonna but it was like we're talking like the Hulk. Mm-hmm. It's like because people, the general population, as they get smarter, it becomes harder to just like sort of make these scientifically ambiguous origin stories for these people, like a radioactive spider. So I do that, you would have died, or gamma radiation. Like everyone, like I shouldn't say everyone knows, but I mean,
I kind of feel like even back then, like, if you got hit with essentially an atomic bomb, I think you die.
Well, I mean, but like think about also Cold War era. Like they were teaching kids like get under your desk. I was like, okay, that's. Somebody kid gets up and the desk is like just wilted, but they're like everyone's fine from that nuclear bomb just blew everything else away. But it's like it's things like that that make me sort of think that there's like some validity to that, right? Like people, you're right. Like there was probably some people who were like, you would just immediately die. With other people who weren't, I guess, sort of like entrenched in that sort of zone enough to be like, it doesn't make sense, and just kind of roll with it. But then, like, as the general population gets smarter, you start to change that a little bit to make it like, I think at some point, or even Amazing Spider-Man, I think did this, where it was the reason why it worked and the spider bit him is because it's Peter's blood. Like it was like this was kind of built off of his family DNA, so he would be really the only person that'd be compatible with it, as opposed to somebody who might get bit and then just have like, I don't know, turn into a lizard. Like,
the Amazing Spider-Man did do that. Oddly enough, his comic book origin has not truly changed. Just a radioactive spider bit him.
But I feel like I also hear Miles or
bit. I'm blanking on her name. Why am I blanking
Silk?
on her name? Silk.
Oh,
the same spider bit both of them.
Oh, and so this entire time she's just.
So for like a while, like, I mean, obviously, in the grand scheme of things, she actually just didn't exist for a long period of time. Right. But once she was created, essentially, the way they did it was that she was, after she figured out that she had the power, she was kidnapped and held by the Jackal, who was an old Spider-Man villain, for like a really long time.
Yeah.
Until she was eventually able to get free. But because of the fact that the same spider bit both of them, their pheromones interact in a way that like almost makes them go crazy whenever they're around each other. So they like have to like be away from each other. Now, of course, that was back when Cindy Moon was around, when he was still with Mary Jane. I don't know if it still works that same way now, but with Hulk, like eventually at some point, and I think they may have changed the sense, like it was like, oh, Hulk is like Bruce Banner was a mutant. And that reason that he became the Hulk was because the gamma radiation triggered both his X gene and his X gene, like altered his X gene to create the Incredible Hulk.
Yeah.
Otherwise, like, he would have died.
Oh, interesting. Because I know I brought it up, but I didn't even know that. Like, I was also just thinking about the 2003 Ang Lee film, where I think it was kind of like, now that I think about it, it's kind of similar to how they did The Amazing Spider-Man, where it's like my father's a scientist and he's working on this, I don't know if it's like a cure or vaccine or what it is, but he's working on something that the foundation of it was their own DNA. It's to kind of explain away why when that gamma bomb went off that he didn't die immediately.
That's what should happen.
Exactly.
I don't care what ditch you jump into. If you get hit with a gamma radiation bomb, even if you don't die immediately, you're gonna be dying.
Yeah, I would probably have to tell somebody. You just need to.
You should probably just shoot me.
I don't know if I can like.
I'm not going through that pain.
Yeah, your whole body just turning into mashed potatoes, dude. Like, I don't know why that was the first food that came to mind. But I like the segment, the topic that you brought up there.
I just thought we would introduce. We don't have to do it every episode, but I think we just something to kind of break up the just jumping right into like a conversation on a movie. Speaking of movies, like we said, we are doing the Batman.
The Batman. Full circle.
Movie directed by Matt Reeves. Brought to us by Warner Brothers. And probably the last Batman movie we were going to do for a while, because I am kind of Batmaned out. But luckily we ended on a good one, because the Batman, though long as I'll get out, was worth its actual minutes of runtime, which I don't say about a lot of long movies. I will say, much like the first time I watched it in movie theaters, at some point I was like, all right, it's time to start wrapping up. And then they're like, no, we actually want to continue this story.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I guess I'm in for the ride. But no, I liked it. What did you think about the beginning of it?
I want to cry. So like, don't laugh at me. No, dude, it was. I love that movie so much. And it's not to say that it's not that love doesn't come out recognition of faults, but I love what they did with that movie. Like the way the movie opens, I think is fantastical. I think it's really things started off right with sort of how psychologically dominating Nigma is going to be as a villain, because the movie starts off literally like it's POV and it's a high to low angle shot, right, which usually denotes like that power dynamic. So him looking over and seeing the kid, which also sort of adds this. There's a sadness that comes with that, because if you can sort of understand where they're going to be going with it, right? And thinking about how the main character's life starts, you kind of think to yourself like, dang, like they're about to just do this all over again. But yeah, starting off with a shot, and the part where the mayor comes back and he's just been standing there the entire time. There are these elements of thriller and somewhat of like horror tension that Matt Reeves puts in the movie, which I think is perfect, especially for the story that they're telling, because it is like a crime drama more, and because they're not like relying on like fantastical villains, you can like dive deeper into that. But that shot, I just think that's something that you would see in a horror movie. What do you think of the opening?
When we first watched it in theaters, that opening to me, it psyched me out, because at the very initial thought, I was like, oh, dog, we're getting origin, because I thought the kid was Bruce Wayne, and like the mayor was Thomas, until like they got inside the building, and then you're like, oh wait, no, he's wearing a ninja costume. This to not be like, this can't be it. So it was a good diversion to be like, hey, but also like a mirroring to be like, well, this kid just lost his dad. Yeah. And so then you get like Batman showing up, and I have to actually admit that I love this movie. It just actually, for the first time to me, even though we just watched 3 Batman movies that kind of essentially did the same thing, for some reason in this movie, it stood out to me, him being dressed like Batman. Because like when he shows up, like he's just walking through those cops, and they're all like, "What the fuck is going on?"
Oh, okay. So I'm sorry, dude. I gotta say, because I thought you were more referring to like when he shows up for that first fight scene, but that's so weird that you thought that, because I was thinking the same thing. Because like, and it was one thing where like that thought finally like settled in, but then also it it just made me love it even more, because when you think about it, yeah, like that would be kind of off-putting. This like 6'2" dude dresses,
just walking about in the bat costume.
Yeah,
like,
dude.
Why is he here? Yeah. Why are you working with this dude? And like all the cops acted the way that they should. They all should and be like, why are you walking around with this freak show of a dude walking around in a bat suit? You know he's a vigilante. We've been following this dude for some months now, and you're working with him. And like Gordon's just whatever, we gotta get him in here. Jeffrey Wright, I don't know. He's like, like, I got that. I've decided this character's gonna be this way. I was like, you know what? I'm okay with it. Also, when he stops and he like looks at the kid. And I always think to myself, that kid is now traumatized. If he was not traumatized before, look at gigantic man in like an armored bat suit just staring at you.
Dude, could you imagine that kid like 15, 20 years later in therapy? And he's like just going over talking to his therapist about that moment in his life. And like, oh my God, that's so traumatic. And he's like, no, that really wasn't the worst part. At the end of the night,
I was sitting there and I was bawling my eyes out and having to look up. And a man of about 6'2", good $180, just dressed like a bat, armored suit, is just staring at me.
Yeah.
And my first thought was, is this not the man that killed my father? Why is he around right now?
I'm not putting you in cuffs yet.
Why are you allowed to just look at me?
You look the part. But yeah, I totally see also what you're saying, like in the reactions, because I think even for people like some of the other cops who, I don't know, I mean, I guess I'm just making an assumption here, were probably sort of lower on the totem pole as far as rank, because they're sort of like, you know, at the beginning of the hallway rather than the folks that are closer to the actual scene, like the, not the coroner, but the CSI person, whatever. Anyways, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, they're protected.
But yeah, their reactions. Then also once the police commissioner at the time steps in, like what he's saying to Gordon, you're like, yeah. But I do like the fact that it, because it makes you start to question it, right? A little bit. You're like, yeah, you probably shouldn't have this dude here. But then he says like, okay, this is addressed to you. Mm-hmm. So it kind of feels like, well, maybe.
Yeah, and to step away from like the movie concept into just like the real world for a second, that's when you start to think to yourself like, this dude should not exist. Because if there's someone killing people to get this guy's attention, mm-hmm. then he is not good for this city. Like if we were just sitting here and, you know, and some crazy person started picking people off and they're like, I've got to dedicate this to the Night Damager. You'd be like, who's the Night Damager and why are you killing people for him? Mm-hmm. And then you finally found out who the Night Damager is and you're like, this dude needs to not be him anymore because he's causing a detriment to the city. But
I mean, I will say like that's a good point, but at the same time I feel like if you're thinking about it from that vantage point, if it's not the Night Damager, then it's going to be something else. Like if a character like that didn't exist, like, I mean, do somebody try to assassinate Reagan to impress Jodie Foster? Like,
yeah, but I think there's a bit of a difference between like people like trying to assassinate Reagan or trying to assassinate John Lennon. Like, yes, crazy people exist. Yeah. But there's also a difference between a crazy person and a crazy person that's doing something because they know another crazy person exists and is really trying to get that crazy person's attention. And that other crazy person's like, I'm not crazy. I'm just doing this because vengeance. Yeah. Like, no, you are also crazy. There's a reason you're dressed up like a bat right now and the rest of us are in like civil suits and police uniforms. All that is to say that I really did dig the beginning. Mm-hmm. It introduced almost everybody it needed to introduce right then and there. It gave you the Riddler. You may not even know it was the Riddler at the time. It was like, right, here's the villain. Here's your hero. Stuff's going down. Mm-hmm. You just lost the mayor. He's been at this for a while. So we don't need to go over his origin. And it's all shot in this just like dark lit way that's just like this city comes alive at night rather than being alive during the day. Yeah. And when the night comes, crazy stuff happens. And sure enough, that the next following scene is just showing that like night comes, you best actually be home. Yeah, because
like curfew's 5. Get home as soon as possible. And I think that's a great point about how the city livens up at night. Something I noticed is, because I know in The Dark Knight, when we were covering the Dark Knight trilogy, we talked to some extent about the personality of the city, of Gotham City itself, and I think right from the get-go, I think like you're saying, like not only the characters, but even in introducing the city itself, right from the jump, it does this fantastic job of introducing you to the character that is Gotham City. And something that I was thinking about is like I know briefly, I think we maybe touched upon sort of like the gothic nature of like Tim Burton's Batman and Batman Returns, mm-hmm. And how they sort of built their city to look like. And in the opening of the Batman, I don't know why, but it gave me this sense of like there was this blend of Tim Burton and Matt Reeves. And I say that because like one of the shots that opens up, and this is before I think he even has the suit on, and he starts the narration, he's walking through the city and everyone's dressed up for Halloween. You get this like aerial establishing shot, and it almost kind of looks like you're in like some kind of version of Times Square. all these lights and all of these big like electronic posters and whatnot and all these images, and it seems somewhat like futuristic, but also like the design and the coloring of it kind of gives you this more like archaic gothic feel to it. And it kind of makes me think about that scene in Batman where there's the final showdown and Batman's in the Batwing and, you know, Joker, they're like kind of running that sort of runway. Yeah, and he pulls out that giant gun and they're sort of having a showdown on that square. That also kind of gave me like a Times Square sort of vibe to it. So I just kind of like that it very quickly jumped in and said like, hey, this is our Gotham City. Like, welcome.
Have you seen the Penguin?
I'm not. Yeah, I just only recently got HBO Max back.
It really does a good job of expanding Gotham as a city to the point that essentially you're like, this is New York City. Like, it's New York City. But that's a good thing, and it helps establish like an idea, this concept. Like, it establishes neighborhoods, that characters come from certain parts of the city, things that like you didn't get in the Dark Knight trilogy, where like people are just Gotham, but it's like we're at in Gotham. Like, you know, I'm from Main Street Gotham. It's like, no, dude, like in both the Batman and the Penguin, like they establish actual areas of the city that these people are from, and build them out to be like, you know, these are like a city. like the way that we were sitting there like trying to come up with a place for our own like story to take place, and I was like we got to flesh these areas out, because otherwise it just comes across as like just a background as opposed to an actual like area in which people live and breathe. Which is why I think Marvel decided like, we're just gonna go real life places, because you know what a real life place is like. Instead of like creating these places, so they're like, all these characters are in New York City. We don't know how to tell you this. Right. Everything happens in New York City because it's what we know, it's what we flesh out, and it works. You're like, oh, something's happening in Harlem. Just Luke Cage might be around, or something's happening in Hell's Kitchen. Maybe Daredevil shows up. And in this case, it's like, yes, Gotham is a city, and Batman watches over all of Gotham. But honestly, he has to come from somewhere within Gotham to be able to do anything about it. So, like, let's flesh these areas out. Like, where does the Penguin, or where does the Riddler, or where does Catwoman come from? And the movie and the series do a really good job of just expanding that and being like, hey, this is Gotham, the city, and this is where this is our playground for the next like several sets of years, however long Reeves is allowed to do it. It's crazy because I don't know where primary filming happened, but you can kind of tell it doesn't feel like it was in a number of places. It feels like it was in a very few amount of places. And you're right about that, like, kind of mix of like modern city but with Gothic appeal. Liverpool, England, that makes a lot of sense. Because I was gonna say, it feels like there's Gothic cathedrals just like about, and that makes a lot of sense now. Yeah, England just has that like feel. Like, there are places where you're like, they're in today, and then there's places like they're in the 1500s because that's how long they've been around. And Gotham feels like an old, like a starting, like a place where like early American settlers came and then just like built a city out of, instead of being like a place in the Midwest that wasn't started until like the 1800s. It's really cool. That movie's really cool. I like that movie. It's long, but I like that movie a lot.
The Batman?
Yes. I also liked the fact that he could fight, but he couldn't fight. He took his lumps in every single interaction he had with people, and it was like he knew he had to just design his suit to be able to take blows, because he wasn't like a world-renowned. It feels like he's not a world-renowned like martial artist in this universe. I don't know if there'll ever come a time where they're like, oh yeah, he trained with the League of Assassins, the League of Shadows. Like, it feels like a dude who's just like, yeah, I'm tired of this. I'm just gonna start doing something about it. And So he gets out there and he just starts punching people in the face. And they're like, I'm gonna punch you back. It's like, well, I mean, yeah, okay. So, next time around, I'm gonna get a helmet that helps me a little bit better.
I you know what? I agree with you, but at the same time, I think that I question, like, if that's because we just came from watching like the Dark Knight trilogy over again, in the juxtaposition of how fight scenes are filmed in that movie versus how fight scenes are filmed here, because I think that, like, from the opening, from the jump, and this scene lives rent free in my head when he first takes that dude out with the machete. It's so fast that, like, I find myself, like, rewinding it. I'm not psychotic, I swear. But I find myself rewinding it so often just to, like, measure the hits and how many times he hits that guy in such, like, rapid succession in such a short amount of time. It was like he was just prepared for it. But I think that one of the things that I think that what maybe sort of reinforces your point is people attack him all at once. Whereas it's not like Christopher Nolan's trilogy where you can see, like, dude, if you look close enough, you can see the perimeter, and they're waiting. They're waiting. And in this one, it makes more sense because it's like, this is a group of guys who probably feel tougher in their unit. Like, you probably got some dudes in that who are just in it just for the clout, who aren't really tough dudes who are about that life. And I think you kind of see that immediately from the dude who's trying to join. And he's like, knock his ass out. And he doesn't do it. And he hesitates because you can tell that he doesn't feel that it's right. So he has his and so, like, when you see the fight start to break out, there are some of those gang members that are on the perimeter sort of, like, almost seeming like they don't know what to do. But then also at the same time, there are those who are like, we're going to jump in and get this dude. So they're hitting them all at once, which I think maybe sort of makes it feel like he's not the fighter that, like, Christian Bale's Batman was, to a degree. Or at least with Christian Bale's Batman, you at least saw that him trained to be that. Whereas
I would say it's
you
more
don't see
that.
that piece.
like they knew they had to let you know that he was supposed to be a good fighter because they couldn't show that he was a good fighter.
I don't like the way he fought, and I to be honest, I don't
and
like
this
the way he
one,
fought there.
like, it's just it's more raw. It just it feels like an actual fight.
Yeah,
like if one dude jumped into a gang of people and just started fighting them, that's exactly what would happen.
Right.
He just happens to have enough armor on him that he can take enough of the punches to do something about it. Because, and I think I said this on our last episode about the fact that people just hang around waiting for Bale's Batman to strike at them. When we get further into this movie and he's at the Iceberg Lounge, and he gets a little bit further in after he deals with the twins, he starts dealing with the dude on the steps, and there's a dude that's, like, around the corner from him who comes around that corner and just decks him right in the back. And he's just like, I didn't think you were going to come around and do something about that right away. I thought I had time to take this dude out. And it's like, it leads further and further into that fact that, like, we know we're in, like, year 2 of this Batman. Yeah. And, I guess year 2, it's 1 year, 6 months, I think. So we're in year 2.
Yeah.
So he doesn't have all his gadgets. He doesn't have everything he needs to be, like, the Batman that he may eventually become.
Right.
But he's got enough to, like, start scaring, like, the lesser thugs of Gotham. And it always looks like a dude who's fighting. And in this case, he's almost allowed to do that because we know that his Bruce Wayne is, like, such a recluse that even if he just gets beaten bloody, no one's gonna see him and be like, "Oh, well, Bruce Wayne, what's happening with Bruce Wayne?" Like, no one knows because no one sees Bruce Wayne, so he can heal up whenever he needs to, even if he wants to. No one knows because he's such a, like, it's such an interesting
he's a hermit
take on him.
Yeah,
because in a lot of ways, and this may sound kind of crazy, but in a lot of ways, this is the least crazy Batman that I think they've really ever done, because of the fact that this is probably how someone would emotionally try to deal with the drama that has happened in his life. Whereas every other one has kind of been psychopathic about it and just, like, split personalities. It's been like, nope, this is everything's okay.
Yeah.
But then on the backside of it is just like person who felt so wronged throughout their trauma that they like donned a costume and did something about it. And in both cases, both of these, like the normal Batman and Robin Pattinson's Batman, done that. Like normal Batman typically just tries to push that away whenever he's being Bruce Wayne to be like the playboy billionaire philanthropist, whereas this other one is like, this sucked. I am moody about it, and I need to deal with it in my own way. So he comes off as emo, but I would assume that's what he should probably go through some emo years. Like I would assume, like Bruce probably went through some emo years before finally being able to like push it down, and maybe that's just what we're seeing at the beginning of it.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking there too, because I see like comparing that to Christian Bale's Batman, it almost kind of seemed like there was no learning curve when it came to that of like how to shift. Like he just knew, like he just knew when to turn it on, when to turn it off. And I would agree with that point there that you made, just because like look at what he's doing, look how he spends so much of his time, and how long did it take him to get to the point where he accrued enough resources and like the physical and mental acumen to be able to do any of this at all. Like I know a lot of people like to think that, you know, they would make a good Batman, but like ultimately, dude, that is like that isn't an impossible task. And like him being that way. So it makes me feel that I am glad that we got to see this, because I do wonder how he'll evolve in the second movie, and whether or not that will be more of a sort of a clearer line between Bruce Wayne and Batman. But like before we move on from the topic of the fighting though, I did notice that like when he is fighting in that movie and he's in a position where he is one-on-one with somebody, he takes them out quick. Like he takes them out like with precision. Because it makes me think of, and this is more of like he was in the shadows at this moment, but the third time he goes into the Iceberg Lounge, like towards the end of the movie, and before he's even put on his suit, and he goes into that stairwell and the dude walks in there with him, I'm pretty sure he takes that dude out in like maybe 2 or 3 punches. Like it's very targeted, very quick. So I like the fact that like you see this difference in how he can attack and how he moves when it's just like a one-on-one. Versus when he's fighting, it feels different. Like when he's fighting somebody in an arena where they can be on different angles. Like if he can, so it makes me very interested to see like a true. I know we got the one with them like shooting at him, which makes like cinematography wise is a beautiful shot. But I would love to see like a hallway scene where it's narrow to where he can kind of take people on in that way, where he can't really get people behind him, and see how they would tackle something like that. Because I think that's kind of part of the difficulty is there's like one, they're making the fighting seem so real and grounded that's to your point, like what it would be like if you were throwing one man in a situation where he's fighting 20 gang members. They can be at all points. So somebody's going to be on the blind side. Somebody's going to end up getting him with a baseball bat. Somebody's going to end up hitting him with a punch. But like if they're all lined up,
just like funneling in.
Yeah.
A tight constricted area.
Or if it's just an open area and it's still one-on-one, like what would that look like?
I'd like to think they were going to probably get that. I would like to see something like a death stroke in like somewhere in like that can challenge him like in both ways, like a bit of the psychological, but mostly like wanting to physically like fighting. I mean, it's clearly like that was not Riddler's forte, and the Riddler knew that was not his forte, so he did everything in his power to not have to ever physically confront Batman.
Yeah.
Or really anyone. Anytime he was like he did something to somebody, it was always from behind so that he could get the jump on him. And it's like, of course, dude's a Redditor. That's exactly like the
he's a Redditor.
He would take somebody out. Like he would, like he knows he can't fight, but he would take like a claw hammer to somebody's like back or like come around somebody and like choke him out with
Right.
like a garrote, but you're not about to go toe to toe with Batman.
No,
He knew
never.
not to do that. So.
And I'm glad they didn't try to force that
No.
of like him doing. Yeah, he was smart enough to know he could never really go that angle.
So I would like to see the next time, like, because of course also like it would have to be the henchmen of like the Falcons and like the Penguin. It couldn't just be the Penguin himself. Being like, yeah, I'm about to. Even though like Colin Farrell like is much bigger than Danny DeVito, he's not about to just like fight like the Batman like, 1-on-1 like that. He would much rather not have to do so.
Yeah, for sure.
So it makes it. So in that first movie, it was like he's a physical threat that people know. Like, I'm not really wanting to deal with this dude, but if I have to like do it for my boss or something like that, maybe I'll try.
Yeah.
And the other higher ups are like, no, we're good. We'll take a gun to you. But he also has this like bulletproof like cape thing, so like it helps to like mark him up as this like badass, essentially, like this dude that you're like you think is a myth until you realize that he's real.
Yeah. And then once
even
you
though
realize
he just like walks into the iceberg lounge, like like I can't imagine like living in that apartment that the Riddler was at and be like, the Batman just walking into the iceberg lounge.
Do you like in your apartment with your girlfriend? It's like, babe, what are you doing by the window? Come over here, we're watching a movie. Like, babe,
Come here real quick.
Is that Batman?
The Batman just walking into the iceberg lounge.
He's got groceries. He's like, is that broccolini? Oh man,
Oh, he's got some good taste.
Somebody's making stir fry tonight.
Where do you get broccolini at this time of the year?
Oh, the Myers are still 24/7 here in Gotham City. Okay. Yeah, they didn't change during COVID.
To kind of move away from the action a bit, just into the cinematography.
Yes.
Yes. It's kind of rare that we like really look at superhero movies and say like, oh, they were shot really well. Mostly because nowadays they're almost shot like exclusively in like green rooms. And I shouldn't say green rooms. They're like green warehouses.
Yeah.
But like there's a particular shot that I just wanted to kind of talk about and gush about a little bit, even though probably from like a real cinematographer's stance, it was probably basic as all get out. It's after he leaves the iceberg lounge the first time and decides he's going to follow Selena. She gets into this cab, and we know that he's like, because he's currently not, he's just Bruce at this time, and he gets on his like bike, and he's like, oh, okay, maybe it's just leaving, whatever. And so she gets into the cab, and then we're like focused on her in the back seat, and she's talking on the phone, I believe, and behind her you can see out the window, and it's raining, so everything's blurry as is, and you see what you think is just another cab behind her because you see two lights.
Yeah.
And it's following her, and it's following her, and it's following. And then, like, they go to make a turn, and it's at the turn that the camera changes focus. And that's when you see that Bruce is actually there on his motorcycle, using, like almost perfectly positioning himself to appear to have been that car behind him's second headlight. And it's just his bike as the sole headlight.
What, dude?
And it's such a cool scene.
Do you have?
What the
sorry,
heck?
do you have HBO Max? Like, do you have a way to pull that? I gotta. I'm sorry, I want to see.
It was like, and I'm certain that there are actual people who be like, I mean, it was such a Parliament trick, but like, just to me, it was like, it's really cool. Yeah, so I think that's her in the taxi now, because she separated from the because she separated from the DA. So like, as you're seeing, like, she's in the backseat of the taxi and like on the phone, and then you see that there's the taxi behind her. And you're like, oh, okay. So you know that taxi is there. And like, so you see how he just moved into place, but you can't like barely really see it.
Yeah.
And then like oh, like he was there.
Oh. Okay. Thank you.
It's just like that was probably just he probably didn't even care that he made that scene happen. But I was like, that's a really cool scene. And it just goes to show that like actual like care was taken into like making this movie as opposed to just making another superhero movie.
Yeah.
And I feel like Batman always kind of gets that treatment, whereas a lot of other superheroes just don't.
Yeah.
I think Batman and Spider-Man are like the two that just get that, like, I want to make a great type of movie as opposed to just, and we'll make the same cookie cutter format that we've been making, and just let the actors that we paid try to make it better.
Right.
Batman feels a lot like a movie that just happens to have Batman in it, as opposed to being until towards the like, I would say like the last third of it kind of becomes that. But for the most part, it is just like a movie. Like it's a thriller, like mystery. Even though we all like we know the answers, we just don't know like we know A and we know Z.
What do you mean by that?
Like we know who the Riddler is.
Yeah.
He's doing this because we're the audience, but we don't know why he's doing it or like. So we're given the breadcrumbs as Batman gets the breadcrumbs. Mm-hmm. We just happen to know the end destination before he does. It
makes me think of like Seven. The horror movie Seven. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And how it plays out, because you're right. Like it's been a while since I've seen Seven, but like aesthetically speaking, there's a lot of things that stand out, and also just like the general story. Like they don't know physically what this person looks like, but they know there is this killer. They know that he's killing based off of like he's got this structure to the murders that he's committing, and so that one also kind of feels like you know A and you know Z, but it's like figuring out all the bits in between that make it so like exciting and such like a great thriller or horror movie. Yeah, and I think this movie does a great job with the cinematography and setting things up that way. It's the shot choice, man. Like how they approach just putting these characters on display. Because the thing is, and I think we may have talked about this before with the Christopher Nolan trilogy. For us as an audience member, it is a matter of seconds that we see this shot that's on screen. But for the people on set that were working on this movie, that could have been an entire day. Mm-hmm. Dude, like that could have been an entire day of them figuring out how to, sort of set the shot up to make it perfect. And so when you are taking that much time, and it's not just seconds, because I think it's very easy to kind of watch a movie and be like, well, that was 2 seconds for me. So they put in as much thought into that shot as I put into digesting it. And it's like, no, like all of those things I think mean something. And I'm glad that you pointed that out, because then it just kind of makes me think about that scene with the taxi and how he was positioned almost as like, because he even says in the beginning, right? What they don't know is I am the shadows. Mm-hmm. And even when he's like at a light propped up in front of him, he moves in such a way that he is the shadows. I thought that was just the taxi.
And then you're like, oh, he's there.
He's there. Like perfectly positioned. So it dude, they did a very fantastic job. So it's one of those that makes me want, like, if it weren't a comic book movie, would it have gotten snubbed from any nominations? Because it blows my mind that this movie wasn't nominated for anything, especially cinematography.
So they definitely, like, I've heard that they don't put superhero movies into like nomination or like even consideration, which is a shame. I guess this is like the for all of the money that is made by superhero movies for the industry, it's kind of crazy how anti-superhero the industry is currently. And I think that's just because the people that are truly making the money and make the decisions are the people that are saying, make this because it makes the most money. Don't make your like little auteur masterpiece, because that's not going to make us money. And all these people like Scorsese or I forget who else has been lambasting movies, but like they don't want to make superhero movies, and it's like, of course you don't. You want to make your movie, so I want to say just make your movie, but we know that doesn't work that way because you need money. And even though these guys are fairly well, like, divested in interests, so say, like, they don't want to put all their money towards making the thing that they want to make. Which, in some aspects, you'd say, well, if you're such an artist, you should be doing that. But
yeah,
it's also a business.
Right.
I understand that.
Right.
But no, I don't think you should just like decide that you need to knock superhero movies down a few pegs. One, they're already doing that to themselves. But just, make the movies that you want to make. So, like, I mean, and we've kind of gone through the same thing with things like, I'm sure back in the day, they were like, there are too many cowboy movies being made. We need to get back to Casablanca. Or, like,
yeah,
far too many Arnold action movies being made. You sure need to get back to those Clint Eastwood classics.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
So I'm sure that once something gets super popular, and it's just really easy to dunk on superhero movies. But that being said, a movie like this probably should have been nominated at least for some type of cinematography. As far as its actual like full on story goes as a movie, one, I do think it is too long, and like I will say, like, probably later when we get to it, the movie is almost perfect up until the Riddler gets caught. That last part, I do think, kind of falters a bit. So even if it weren't a superhero movie and it was just a regular movie, I think like if it were just like a cop type procedural where Batman was a cop instead of being Batman, I think somebody would, like a critic would still say, like, it was great up until that bad guy got caught, and then I don't know what the fuck they were thinking at that last part. But like, you can't deny it's shot very prettily. Whether that's a word or not, I'm pretty sure prettily is. It's very pretty. It's very pretty. It's very like almost kind of romantic in the way that it's shot. It seems like lighting is always just exactly what the heck it needs to be. Focus on like characters is always like just right there. Shots are just like it's like they were just in their bag each time they needed to, like, each day everybody was just like, you ready? Boom, let's get
firing
this
on all
done.
cylinders. And
they got it done. Yeah, it just sucks that like superhero movies don't get that recognition, and it's like it's such a shame on the industry.
I don't know what it'll take for that to change. I hope it does, because I do think that there's some great moments. Like, you can't just like shirk them for their, just because of the genre that they're in, regardless of what you think about the studios and whatnot. Because you're right. Like, if you are a true auteur, you've got the money to pour into this, pour into it. And don't get me wrong, I think it sucks that, like they don't have as many opportunities for those movies to be made. But that's also just kind of where society is headed. I think outside of streaming and making things so easy to consume and so easily accessible, the other part of it is people are just too busy. Like you know, these people in an economy where they have to work how many jobs and also raise a family and try to afford daycare, and that's like 30% of their income, and others is like spent on like housing. Like, if you were to, people don't have the free time to plan to just go be able to see all those movies. I wonder if they did, like, would you see a resurgence? Because right now, like, part of it is like you're relying on trying to evolve the experience of going to the movie theater in general. So you change, most movie theaters have changed how the seating is, and like snacks they offer, and like slacking up on rules about what you can bring in and all that shit. So, I mean, I feel like that's kind of part of it, but the movie is, I do think a little too long. There are definitely shots that I think when I was like watching the movie, like no matter how beautiful it is, I'm like, I think it kind of lingered there a bit too long. One of the first to come into mind, which is funny because it's actually towards the end of the film, is when you have they're at the arena, and Batman notices that that thing is gonna fall into the water, and it would basically like electrocute and like fry all these people, and so he's hanging on that rope, and he goes to cut it. It's like that scene took a very long time to play out, and it's like nothing happened that I don't think that you already expected to happen, and I'm just like, I don't think it needed to be that long, but that's just one example.
Do you want to get into the third? Do you want to get into the after the Riddler is caught?
I was very curious about that because when the comment that you made about it going downhill, perfect up until that point. So I wanted you to elaborate on that.
Okay, so to me, the movie is near perfect up until you get to that point, and the reason for that is because, and honestly, to me, that should have ended the story. It should have ended there. Everything you get after that is, I guess, it's supposed to help set up the Penguin to some degree, but my lord, it feels like filler. It feels like a waste. You essentially get the Riddler's caught. Batman needs to get to Z, so he needs the last part. And I will say, just that part right after where he's interrogating Riddler, that part should have stayed. I know the big meme of like, does he know? And it's a good question, because the Riddler still technically does not let on whether he knows that Bruce Wayne is Batman or not. He plays around with the concept, and he almost seems to toy with Batman as if like it's still a does he or does he not know.
Yeah,
that part is great because it's still adding to like, especially when he like that part where he's like kind of teetering on the edge of saying it or not, and like Batman starts to tense up as if he's gonna have to like do something about this. Should he like say that he knows that he's Bruce Wayne, and then he like diverts and says like we, as if saying like Bruce Wayne is we're both victims of Bruce Wayne, which makes Bruce like kind of lower his tension. But like the music's also been ramping up to be like, shit's about to pop off. Oh no, it's not gonna pop off. We're good. What happens after that becomes this just like, okay, and then he goes and he goes back to the apartment, and that beat cop that's been everywhere apparently is also there, and he's in the background. What you doing? You shouldn't be doing that. Oh wow, this was here the entire time. And you're like, all right, man, calm down. I know you wanted to get your actual little bit in, but we're good. So then he figures out, oh crap, there are bombs all over the place. Then it's not able to do anything about the bombs because he's been in the apartment the entire time, and he's been so slow to figure out the solution to this whole thing that he didn't actually solve it. Riddler won technically, yeah, but now Riddler's his fellow Redditors have got to do their last little due diligence. All them 4chan boys now got to come out with the guns and start killing people. Yeah, and so Batman gets there, and he, Lord knows, had like Gordon not been, if it wasn't for Gordon, the new mayor would have just been dead, because Gordon told her not to go out there. Yeah. She was like, I do whatever I want to. Boom, right in like chest. Batman finally shows up. He's kind of dealing with these dudes, but they're all like, we're not fighting you, dude. We got guns. So they're trying to take him out with the guns. Selina comes back, and this is the part where I was kind of like, oh, there are kind of some similarities between Dark Knight Rises and the Batman. So she comes back, she's helping. Then he gets kind of blasted in the chest with the shotgun, and at that point, I'm like, okay. Then she's about to get choked out, and he takes the adrenaline, and he takes that dude out, and then everybody's like in the water, and they're all, oh my god, and then the scoreboard's about to come down. And he's got to stop the scoreboard from coming down because it'll electrocute everybody. But like, why was all that necessary? Like, it was like, here's a crime story for you. Now we have to make him a hero. And it was like, I guess that was their way of being like, we're making him a hero to the people. But he should have just remained a myth. He should have just continued to be the man that strikes from the shadows. Why put him out into the public eye like that? like that whole part to me just was like, and then of course the stupid Joker, like teaser at the end, and it's just like, I'm good on that. Just it should have ended with him like we're in a situation where it's like a do we or do we not know.
Mm-hmm.
Falcone's dead. What's going to happen with the Penguin? Now we got two villains out here that are like, what's going to happen with them? And then maybe you could have teased a third that would pop up in the second movie, but not the Joker. Could have been anybody else but the Joker. And you just boom. But it was like, no, we need to tack on an extra like half hour to this already long movie so that you can be like, he was a hero at the end because he came down there and he cut that line and then he fell slowly into the water and then they cut later to him like helping the people out. And yeah, that was a feel good moment at the end, but also like, I don't think it was necessary. You should just like, because at this point it's like, okay, cool, he's got the people on his side, but does he need the people on his side? Because people have already like, I think it's supposed to be a juxtaposition to like the beginning of the movie when he takes those thugs out, and then that the Asian dude's left, and he's like, please don't hurt me, because he thinks that like surely this man that just jumped into this group of people and beat them all up without touching you once wanted to leave you to get beat on last for some reason. But I get it. He was scared because that things are like this have been just happening all over the city. So, but he's also scared of the Batman because the Batman is just like unknown variable. And I think that's what helps Batman tremendously in his early days is being this unknown variable, this individual who could like strike at will out of the shadows whenever he wants to. But now he's just Batman. He's the hero of Gotham, and now it's gonna be just like no one's gonna sit there and be like he's a menace. The police are all gonna have to be like, oh, I mean, yeah, he saved those people in the thing. He's been cool with us. I mean, except for that one time when he like punched Gordon and he started beating us all up before he grapple gunned his way out of here. But I mean, just even at the end of the thing, like. That the beat cop didn't flinch and be like, oh, he's about to beat us up again. He just came in and he was like, hey, I guess you can continue working on this crime scene that you're working on earlier.
So the third act, which is just to like touch upon some of the points that you made. Let me just start with the beat cop. I don't know why there, but we're going to start with the beat cop. I think I actually like that juxtaposition of, because like basically Batman wasn't even really talking or responding to anything that he was saying the entire time, compared to what he was like in the beginning when he tried to walk into that scene when he was surrounded by God knows how many of his constituents there. So he can put on and exude more of this like tough guy. Like, it doesn't matter if you tower over me by like 1.5 feet. Like, I'm a cop. You know, what are you going to do? You can't come in here until Gordon allows him to come in. But you see him there when he's working on the scene by himself, and it's like a different tone. It's like a different approach. And there's more of like timidity to it, because now I think there's some of that unknown, I think, variable that's there that he's talking about. And you also had mentioned, I think, the sort of the idea of Batman coming into the light and no longer being that unknown variable or that myth, behind that character, but being this person that people see as like a general example or symbol of good. And I agree with you to a point, but I do think that, especially just like how I see the internet today, like I feel like that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how many people can go ahead and say like Batman helped to pick me up or did this, that, and the other. There's going to be always the counter to it. There's always a counter. It does not matter what evidence you have to the contrary. It's always going to be that, because to your point, I think that like cops are going to say like, well, he's not good. He's a menace. He punched me in the eye. Like, he fought how many of us? He punched Gordon in the face.
It's like he should be.
Well, that's the thing. Is like, so the thing is like, I can see how it can set up this sort of, to me, it almost kind of like reminds me of Spider-Man to a degree, where I can still see it being in this zone where there's going to be the people that look up to Batman and see him as a symbol for good, and the people that still hate him for like how they twist that symbol. Because you see that, I think, with Spider-Man, how the city hates him for the most part, even through the second movie. and then you have that group of people that he saves on the train, and then how they treat him compared to like how people probably would still for a good bit of time would still probably treat him as a menace, and how J. Jonah Jameson would still come at him as a terror on the city. I just think that there's still room for people to fight against that image of sort of where Matt Reeves left at the end of the movie with him, helping the people. There was definitely an odd pace to the third act. I'm not against the third act. I think there was just certain elements of it that, like, it was honestly, I've oftentimes like started watching that movie and then up to that point, really up to the point where he cuts that cord and falls down to the water. I think I'm good. Because one, the scene plays out, it takes sort of way too long. They linger on those shots a little too long. I just feel like there's another way they could have gone about. Like if they, to your point, wanted to end with him doing something heroic, I think there's maybe a different action or step that he could have taken, or you just don't end that way. I think visually, and that's sorry, I'm going off on a tangent here, man. I apologize, but please bear with me. It reminds me of thinking about like certain ideas that we've had for our show, and how I think to like myself, like visually, this would look so cool. But then when I would pass them along to you and you would have these questions about it, then I would think to myself, is like, well, am I doing this because it fits into the story? Or am I doing this because visually I think it would look cool? And I think some movies do that, where it's like, does it really fit? No, let me shoehorn it in it because it's a great image that I want to use this visual representation. I want to use this visual to represent what Batman is becoming. So you literally have that shot, the aerial shot or the bird's eye shot of him leading with the flare and leading a group of people out of the water, which is a cool shot, but
it felt like that was done because they're like, yep, we're gonna put that in because that's like, it didn't feel symbolic as much as it felt like we were doing this because like that's a cool ass shot. Mm-hmm. It was a cool ass shot. But also the thing with him cutting the cord, I hate that scene. And I hate it because I feel like someone thought he was being self-sacrificial, but then nothing happens. It's like he gets down there, he's all groggy because he's been shot with the gun and he's all amped up on the adrenaline. Then he like cuts it and he just falls in the water. And you're like, okay.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. And I think that's kind of like what lends to this sort of odd pacing of it, because it feels like the build up. So you had mentioned, sorry, before I go into that, like you had mentioned like the build up in the conversation when Batman is, after they call it Enigma and Batman's interrogating him, right? Everything's building up and it's like, does he know? Does he not know? And then finally kind of realize that he doesn't, and how things twist from there. Like, to me, that it's kind of a weird feeling because on one hand, it goes against what my expectation was, which is that Enigma knows who Batman is, which, given how smart he is, I was like, I think that would be feasible. But then it disobeys that, and it says he doesn't know, but he thinks that he's a kindred spirit and that they're both orphans. And so, like you were saying, that Bruce Wayne has something, or like the Wayne family, I think maybe in general has something to do with that and what their experience was as orphans. But then Batman sort of regains his footing because that tension loosens up, because now he realizes.
This is why I think that's why I think it's still up in the air. Like, did Riddler do that because he just didn't want to give it away yet? Or does he truly not know?
I took it as he doesn't know, just based off of his reaction. It seemed like, and maybe that was just him being sly, and maybe he's also just like a genius and a great actor, but it seemed like his reaction to it was like, no, I thought I had this right. I thought you were like me, but you're not. And because I think to a degree, Enigma looks at Batman as like he's wanting to do the same thing, something similar, but they're just going about it different ways. And I think even at one point he says, is like, I'm not like you. Like, I don't have that. I don't have the physical body. I don't have the physicality that you do. So I can't do the things that you do. So I have to think about what the end goal is, and maybe kind of making the assumption that Batman's end goal is the same as his, but I have to go about it a different way or use you as a tool without really even you knowing it. But I say that just because it feels like Batman starts to regain his footing only to find out that he lost. And so it kind of tricks you in that you think it's going one way where you think that Batman is vulnerable. You find out that he's not vulnerable, but then you find out that he actually is vulnerable because he got so caught up in being narcissistic and thinking this was like all about him that he totally didn't think to put some of those other pieces together, like using the carpenter tool to dig underneath the floorboard. Like, you were in the apartment. Like, you could have seen that and maybe had enough time, rather than going to Arkham to talk to him, could have had enough time to go and try to maybe diffuse that.
And I guess that's like, so I guess him losing and not recognizing that early enough is supposed to have been like this continuation of him consistently kind of making mistakes throughout the movie. But I feel like if maybe instead of having that outcome happen in this movie, like it happened in like the next movie, that gave him a reason to have to tighten up and think more. Because there's like the fact that he didn't think about the carpet tool, and somebody had to tell him about that, or the issue with like his Spanish when it came to the rat with wings. Yeah. So he's clearly not the world's greatest detective at this point, but we know that because it's supposed to be like year 2 for him.
Mm-hmm.
But like, while it takes beats from things like year 1, Long Halloween, like in moments of time where it's a younger Batman working on becoming Batman. So that's why I think if you're given it a second movie in which kind of early on he makes a near fatal mistake, he's like, oh, I need to tighten it up and get a little bit better at this because I'm messing up.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like everything that he kind of messes up on just kind of like he's too late on the Bruce Wayne thing. Therefore, like Alfred gets hurt. He's too late on the apartment, so the bombs blow up. Like, it's like everything is like he messes up, and something happens like immediately afterwards.
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah.
Oh, yep, you messed up. Like, he messed up the rat with wings thing, so naturally he causes like a fucking 50 car pile up on the highway chasing the penguin. Like, it's like, at no time does he make a mistake, and it happens like well after.
Yeah.
It's like he comes like the chickens come to roost. Like, everything is just like, you messed up, son. This is why it's happening to you right now. And it's like, if they could have just happened a little bit later on to build up to be like, okay, I need to get the detective part of this down. I already got the fighting aspect of it down.
I think with the detective part, it shows that he's incredibly intelligent and capable, and with some of the riddles that were being issued early on, he's able to like pick up on things pretty quick. I think it's more a testament to his impatience as being in year 2, is that he hasn't matured to that point yet where he can take his time. And so when he gets to something that he thinks is the answer, they kind of hop on it and pursue it so adamantly that it almost kind of does it to the detriment of like what his crusade at the end of the day. And so I do wonder what as he becomes more patient, what that will look like, and if we'll start making those mistakes, because it, to me, is like the intellect is there. It's just I'm moving too quickly. As far as the Riddler being captured, and then the climactic battle is him against a slew of more Redditors that come to the aid. I think the interesting thing about that is that it shows how terrifying an idea can be and how powerful an idea can be. And I think that's one of the things that I actually do like about the third act, is that like you caught the guy, but the platform that he stood on was so infectious that these people still went forward and went about this plan without him. They all dressed up like him. Like they're all in this together, and it just kind of goes to show you, like, when people feel disaffected, how that can make them come together and glue them together to do something like this, because that's a crazy plan, dude. To funnel all of these people into an area that like most of the city has to evacuate to, for the bombs that God knows how many bombs that you've set up to flood the city, and then pick people off from an eagle's nest. inciting panic is wild. And the fact that the person who created the plan in the first place is not even there and you're still doing it. All because...
It's crazy that they knew he wouldn't be there. Because
he
didn't activate the thing until after he knew he would be caught. So, I mean, we have our real life parallels, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
It's very clear that he took a look into like the online disenfranchisement of certain individuals and said, I'm going to take this and put a Batman-esque spin on it.
Mm-hmm.
And it comes out to show you exactly like what would happen. Like this is it kind of goes to what I was saying about the Joker in The Dark Knight. How I felt that like it annoyed me that he was just kind of like killing off like mafioso and taking their lackeys, as opposed to being this like force of chaos that brought others to his cause, so that they had true like you only get the one concept of true loyalty out of the dude and you still don't know if he and his loyalty allowed Joker to rig a bomb in him or if he was forced to do it.
Yeah.
But if there were more people just that showed that they were down for his cause, and that's why they did this, as opposed to like either being paid like at the beginning of the movie or being like, you're my lackey now because I just killed Michael Jai White. That's what the end of the Batman was like. That all of these dudes who the Riddler essentially, and they weren't even other orphans. They weren't the dudes that were in their place. These were just people that he talked to because they all felt that the world was against them. And he had the solution for it. And I think that would have been a great thing to start the second movie off with. It would have continued to push the Riddler's reach, even though the Riddler now is in Arkham, and it would have given you something immediately for Batman to have to deal with. But I guess he knew he wanted to do, so he put it at the end of this story, so that you could really, I guess maybe it helped to feel the impact because everything was happening. So it was just a continuation of that, like that rock rolling. I mean, I'm gonna stand by not being the biggest fan of those things happening then, but like I don't have a problem with them happening. It's just I don't think they needed to be tacked on to the end of the movie.
Okay.
It even held that like concept of like the Riddler being this like overthinking person to come up with that concept of deciding to flood the city to push people inward to then start picking. Like you could have just shot them as they were walking around, but no, I'm gonna flood the city. Yeah. Get people pushed into areas, not to mention all the people that died in the initial bombings and floods as well as crazy that he stayed in Arkham Asylum. Crazy that they did not just take him into jail immediately.
That is something that confuses me about their response. It's like, because as far as I know, Arkham is an insane asylum. So for them to capture him and not bring him to jail first, but the first place they like usually. In the podcast that I've listened to, it's not like when somebody kills somebody, and like even if they were like,
oh, for a while,
before they're like, oh, let's see if we can take the insanity plea, like they just went straight to Arkham. So yeah, I'm also confused about that part. But so, in thinking about the ideas like motifs, I think disenfranchisement, like you just mentioned, is one is like very pervasive. You kind of feel that all across the city, and that's why those people feel that way. That it reminds me of the like back in college when students were sitting in like the student union to like boycott the 1% or however that was going on. Just feeling so utterly incapable and like pushed to the perimeter that they don't have any other choice but to seek violence in that way. It's a scary thought, and the thing is like. You do see it happen in real life, and you do see any deep rabbit hole online forum where people feel that the world is against them. there's some crazy things that are said. And it makes me wonder, like, if there's somebody to stoke the flames of that, like, enough, and to kind of take the helm and say, I'm going to lead this, how many people would actually take to it, especially when you make them angry enough. It's a very interesting approach to a Batman movie.
Mm-hmm. It also helped, I think, for the Riddler and his cause that there wasn't, like, it wasn't a boogeyman. Like, there was no just, like, concept that is vaguely represented to be, like, that's what he's rebelling against.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the sheer amount of corruption caused from Carmine Falcone having so much dirt on all these people that he could just consistently blackmail all of the bigger figures in the city, and they were like, I mean, we got to do this because he could blackmail us.
Yeah.
It really, it gave him this thing that he could be like, look at what's happening, like, and especially after, like, finding out each bit of it and the people attached to it, and being able to go back to these online forums and be like, look here, the DA has been doing all of this for Carmine Falcone. The police chief is doing all this for Carmine Falcone. The mayor has been doing all this for Carmine Falcone. And Thomas Wayne did this for Carmine Falcone.
Yeah.
So he knew ultimately his final target was Gotham itself. But right before that, it would be Carmine Falcone, because he knew that was who was at the center of it all. And something not even Batman knew until it was presented to him. So it's like he was always multiple steps ahead, and it allowed him to be able to tell these people who feel disenfranchised, whether they were in, like, Bloodhaven or if they were in, like, Metropolis, and be like, hey, come to this city to feel some vindication for the way that you feel. And so he did it. And in the real world, it's hard to say. We know there would be actors. We know there would definitely be people that would do it, but I think so many people are apathetic in general that they may talk a good deal on the internet, but when it came to true action, probably would not do a single thing.
Yeah.
And there are so many obfuscators, people who say things and don't mean any of the things that they mean or mention on the internet, as long as they can hide behind, like, a anime profile or, like, anything that masks them, as they can just say the most trifling, awful things on the internet to somebody, and then walk away from a computer or a phone and sit down and have dinner.
Yeah, with their, like, wife and kids.
Yeah. Because they can just mentally separate themselves, which is an insane thing to say. You shouldn't be able to just multi-personality in a situation like that. But we see it a lot. And I think there are far more of those type of people than there are January 6ers. I think if all the people who truly said, like, meant what they said on the internet actually went on that day, they'd overrun that place. But you got the true actors that came out, the ones who were, like, down for the cause, and then they probably were wondering, oh, all these people are down. They were saying they were going to come down. What happened to them? I mean, they didn't mean it. And I'm certain in this movie that was probably the case. He probably was talking to, like, hundreds of people, and he probably was watching on the phone, like, only 20 people showed up? What the heck happened? Y'all said y'all
had 500.
Come down.
Hey, Eric, can I talk to you? I thought you were coming down. Once we flooded Gotham, you were going to be in the rafters with a rifle.
Oh, I actually had to work late that day, so
okay.
Yeah, I wasn't able to come.
Oh.
The next time you flood Gotham, though, I will definitely make sure I am there.
Yeah, can I put you down for 10 o'clock?
I might come at like 11:30. It takes
Everyone's
going to
be dead by then.
I mean, it takes a long while to get to Gotham, and you're flooding it. It's going to be some traffic. So
that's a good point. Hey, we'll set you up in an Airbnb. You can just stay downtown in the Madison Square Garden. A hotel by the Madison Square Garden, I should say. And then, yeah, and then just hop on over. Just take a nap in the roof of the arena. Hey man, it's 9:30. We gotta get ready.
I would, but my grandma's been sick, so
Oh,
I need to stay around to watch out just in case. You know what? Don't put me down. Maybe the third or fourth time you guys do this, I'll be down. But
the third or fourth time.
I unfortunately don't have time. But I am down for the cause. I am down for the cause.
Dude, I think it'd be awesome to use your grandma as an excuse, and then she calls you right then and there. Accidentally put her on speakerphone, and she's like, "Hey, I'm doing salsa with Caleb. We're having a great time."
Like, that's my paternal mom. I actually met my maternal grandmother. She's the one.
Hey, baby, I'm here with Rose. Like all the grandmas are there. Then it turns into a spin-off movie called All the Grandmas. Oh my gosh. Dude,
So like The Hangover, but with old ladies.
Yeah, dude. You get Diane Keaton. What was it? I was going to say, Diane. What's her name? Not Jodie Foster. Oh my gosh, she was in a lot of Woody Allen movies. Jane, not Jane. I'm not gonna. She's on some show on Netflix. There's some show on Netflix where she has a friend. Like their husbands find out that they're gay, and then the husbands take off with each other, and so like they're like in their 70s and sort of have to just sort of adjust in life. It's a pretty good show. But yeah, they should definitely be in All the Grandmas. Copyright that, by the way. Don't take. All right.
That's what they should read. They should do a Golden Girls movie.
Yes.
That's the Hangover movie.
Yes.
And you just put some new old ladies in this, but it's still Blanche and all them. And
Yes, sir.
And they just wake up in like the middle of the desert. Like,
I'm for it.
What's going on here?
I'm for it, man. I'm for it.
Really enjoyed the movie. Really enjoyed Penguin. Really can't wait till you watch it so I can talk about it. I want to end my thoughts on the Batman with this.
Yeah.
I would really like, whether it be a series or, I know it can't happen because of the timing, but I would really like either a series or a movie with Selena in Bloodhaven, which is where she leaves to at the end of the movie, and somehow incorporate Dick Grayson into it. Perfectly, I wouldn't actually mind. I know, like, there's supposed to be this whole, he's got to be Robin first. But, like, what if there was a universe in which, like, Dick was much closer to Batman's age and was from Bloodhaven and, like, got inspired by seeing the Batman and chose to become Nightwing. And, like, he was like, Bloodhaven's my city. And then, like, Selena gets there. And so now you have this, like, Nightwing movie that's got, like, Selena coming from Gotham.
I'd be here for that.
Nice.
Yeah. I feel like if they're gonna introduce Dick Grayson, I feel like in this universe that's the route to go. I just don't see how you go the route of this Bruce Wayne, or really any Bruce Wayne, and really just, I guess, just kind of how Batman movies are, sort of just the aesthetic of them nowadays. I don't see how you can pull off, like, oh, he adopts this 12-year-old kid, and then, like, you can't.
I think that's why they've just not gone the Robin route, because it's like, okay, he just, this grown man, this non-married grown man just like adopted a boy. I mean,
I guess it's not ultimately like crazy out of the question. I guess you hear about it, like people adopt.
I mean, people adopt.
As like single people adopt kids.
But I mean, if Elon Musk adopted a 12-year-old boy tomorrow, I think you'd be like, what?
I think mainly I would think that because it's Elon Musk.
But that's what I'm saying. This is Bruce Wayne.
Well, I just mean, like, what I mean is, like, I guess he's a fictional character, but I never saw Bruce Wayne in the same vein as, like, Elon Musk.
No, I'm saying, like, Elon, Bill Gates.
I wouldn't be surprised if Bill Gates did it, but, like, if a Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, most billionaires, I would be, no, yeah, I would be. But I guess it's because I'm also thinking from the perspective of like I know Bruce Wayne's Batman.
Yeah, I mean,
so
you get that.
I mean, it's.
I mean, that's actually weirder because
I mean, yes, there's word that he is, but I mean, like, I can't see most billionaires looking out for another person. I guess that's kind of like what it boils down to. Like, you're a billionaire for a reason.
I mean, that's kind of the question: is he doing it for that reason? Because if he were really like, if he really adopted Dick just for the sake of being like, I need to get this kid off the street, he just had his parents killed or whatever, he wouldn't become Robin. He'd want to shelter him from like that side of the life. But he just is now continuously grabbing children off the streets and turning them into Robin.
There's a story of a man that comes through Gotham taking all the disadvantage.
Children. No one knows what happens to him. But it is said that a boy wonder of red, green, and yellow does appear.
If you say his name 5 times in a mirror.
Also, and just one last bit, in terms of like how you were saying scenes last too long. Well, it was somewhat artistic of a choice, I can tell. Them leaving the cemetery on those motorcycles took forever. Yeah. Yes, it did. That was that could have got a little bit cut. That's my last part about it.
Yeah.
Your final thoughts.
Again, I love this movie. It's. I love the feel of it. I love its energy. I love the aesthetic. I love the care that was put into it. It's definitely one of those films that has reinforced to me that I need to just like sort of let things play out rather than getting confused or giving a side eye to who they choose to like be cast as some of these characters, because it always, we kind of did the same thing with Ben Affleck's Batman, like when I heard Robert Pattinson, like it wasn't as bad of a reaction it was when Ben Affleck was cast, which, and I don't mind, honestly, I don't mind Ben Affleck's Batman at all, but it's more just like we think about like Heath Ledger's Joker and all these characters and people just being like, why would you go that route? You were supposed to choose Willem Dafoe for Joker. Just let it play out, man. Let's see what it is, because I started to get more comfortable with the idea as I really started to like look at more Robert Pattinson movies, and I was like, he's actually a really good actor, and people like, you just label him as this like sparkly vampire because that's where you first saw him, probably, or that or Harry Potter. But like he goes well beyond that, and seeing The Lighthouse for the first time, I was like, yeah, he's gonna be a great Bruce Wayne. But all in all, I'm excited for the second. It's taking a while, but I'm very excited to see what they come out with it. Yeah. 4 years later.
Oh,
crazy,
man. It also sucks that I guess he's now like an Elseworlds character and won't be a part of like Gunn's like true DC universe. But I actually am at least excited for the fact that Elseworlds concept exists, because like I couldn't imagine them just like, I would hate if they just like, we're done with that, show it, I got an idea for Batman. But it is going to be weird to now be in a situation where we have multiple Batman movies. Like they're going to be like a Batman 2026 and 2027, but they're like completely different Batmans and stories. And it's like, what? That's finally stepping into like the real realm of like comic bookery. Whereas like it's just been movie business now, but now it's like, that's a blending of it. That's crazy. And it'll be really interesting to see how people, because I know people are going to immediately want to just compare the two. We compare every Batman to the previous Batman. But now it's like, you got two apples right next to each other to be able to consistently compare. So it'll be interesting. It's just taking too long.
It'll be interesting for sure. But folks, thanks for tuning in. We appreciate you as always, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Panharmonicon presents a podcast.